Hello, this is the COVID question with Martin Kelly and the Lady Unreal. Hello, welcome to the COVID question with me, Martin Kelly, and I'm joined by the Lady Unreal. Now, we did have different plans for what this episode of the COVID question was going to be, but Lady Unreal has come into the studio this morning, and based on what she heard yesterday, she's got a few things that she wants to say about the what is the media are calling COVID passports or vaccination passports. I don't think she's too happy. Milady, hello, how are you feeling?
Under the circumstances, pretty shocked at the news, but not really because I sort of expected it.
You sort of accepted it.
Expected it.
Oh, expected it, I do apologise. So, do you think now that if they do introduce that policy in September where you're going to have to prove that you've been vaccinated before you can go into crowded venues, do you think that that's something that's going to make you want to get the vaccine?
Not at all, because it's all about control, and this is just the start.
Just the start? What do you mean it's just the start?
Well, at the moment it's you've got to be vaccinated now to go into nightclubs, which for me it doesn't bother me, but for the most part it's going to be very different. Like, you're going to have to it's going to be very shortly, you're going to have to do it to get on any transport or to go and do your normal shopping, like just to be able to leave the house. Like, it is just the start before it's all about control.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that will agree with you. Do you have any sympathy for the people that will say, well, I'm a vulnerable person, I don't want to catch the virus off somebody that's not been vaccinated, someone that's carrying it around and has made the choice of not being vaccinated?
I can understand that, but at the same point, we're all allowed our own opinions. When it comes to the flu, we're allowed to have our own discretion of whether we'd like to take it or whether we don't want to take it, and it should be the same for the COVID vaccine. But for some reason, now they're asking us to do passports, even though a few weeks ago it was up to our own discretion of whether we was going to have it or not. And it should be the same like it is with the flu virus vaccine. They don't make us take it, they give us a choice. I choose personally not to have it. I have my own health conditions, and I still won't take the flu vaccine because my body is able to fight it off. We have antibodies in our own body that is able to fight these things off naturally.
Well, you say that, and you're right to an extent, but not everybody does. For instance, if someone's having chemotherapy, or if someone is having something called immunosuppressant treatments, which is a treatment that helps to stop your body attacking itself. Like they don't have those kind of antibodies and those kind of self-protective things that most bodies have, but not everybody does. So what would you say to that?
At the same point, the flu, you're also able to catch that from me if I was to catch it. So why is it not the same for the COVID vaccine? You'd be able to catch it either way, whether I've had this virus or whether I've had this vaccine or not. If I'm going to catch it, I'm going to catch it. And by putting a small dose of it in my body doesn't make sense to me, because if I catch it, I can fight it off naturally.
Well, you can fight it off naturally when your body. What the vaccine does is it gives you a controlled dose of the virus, which is like a very very minimal dose. As was mentioned previously by Steve Madden on episode 1. The coronavirus is deadly. It is still killing people. So why would you want to take the risk?
Because the flu is the same. You can still catch the flu and die from the flu. More people have died from the flu than they have from COVID. You can't tell me that because I've not taken the vaccine that I'm not still going to potentially die from it. Like, if I was to take the vaccine, I could still die from the virus, so I'd rather take my chances and not take
yeah,
it.
I mean, yes, you could. You could still die, but it would lessen the chances. The same with the flu vaccine. You could still die from the flu, but it lessens the chances of it happening if you've had the vaccine. So, but I would be a hypocrite when you talk about the flu vaccine, because I've qualified for a free flu vaccination since about 2001. And the first few years I didn't bother taking it because I thought, well, I can fight it off. I'm doing all right. I'm young, I'm healthy. And then I got the flu in about 2006, 2007. I got the flu, and my goodness me, I underestimated how much of a debilitating condition the flu is, and it really knocked me off my feet for quite a few weeks for me to recover fully. Would that not concern you at all, my lady?
No, because we can still catch the flu. It's no worse than the flu, as you've just said. The flu was quite bad. So is COVID, so say. So why would I choose to get vaccinated when I choose to not get vaccinated against the flu one? Like, I don't get vaccinated for these things, and I feel so much better for not doing so.
When you say you feel so much better, do you mean physically or mentally?
Both. Like, I feel like every time I have had a vaccination, whether I was in school, it feels like after all these years of not taking these vaccines, it feels like my head's a lot clearer and I can think for myself a lot better. Whereas I feel like there's some sort of thing in these vaccinations that stop our brainwaves from doing what they're supposed to do.
Really, that's an interesting point. I'm not going to ask you if you've got any evidence of that, because other than your own experiences, because this is just a kind of a conversation that we're having on the hoof, really, because this was only announced yesterday, so we just kind of catching up with it as we're going along. But there are people who share that opinion with you. But they are in the minority. So what would you say to somebody who thinks, well, I mean, and this is not me saying this, because I know that you're not, but what would you say to people who think that that's a stupid opinion to have?
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and mine is that this government isn't here to help us in any sort of way. Otherwise they'd be stopping world hunger, they'd be stopping other things from happening in the world that is more important, rather than trying to make us all have a vaccination that we genuinely, I believe, that we do not need. Like, there's so many things, and if they were here to help us, then why aren't they helping us with a lot of other issues?
Well, you say that we don't need, but the statistics would prove otherwise, because as cases of coronavirus are going up, hospital admissions aren't going up in the same way, and that is being put down to the vaccination, because people are getting COVID-19, but they're not needing hospital treatment because they've been vaccinated. So the statistics would say that we do need that vaccination, because it's not stopping people from getting ill, but it's stopping people from becoming seriously ill and needing hospital treatment and dying.
But at the same point, the statistics were very different in the beginning, because I did some research on the death rates between a few years ago and this year's and last year's, and that there was only about 200 more people in the world that ended up actually dying. So how can COVID be that bad if our death rate was just the same as any other year, and people are dying every day, people are being born every day?
Now, if you look at the official figures from the Office of National Statistics, because I was following this last year too, because I wanted to know when I could reopen Disability Experts and know where the trends were going, and the official figures show that there was thousands of more deaths. I don't know off the top of my head, because without looking it up, but it was in the thousands of more deaths than there had been on previous years.
But there was also people being put down as COVID-related deaths when they weren't even allowed to do the COVID test on them because they'd refused to go into the house for 3 weeks, so they would leave people's bodies to rot in their own house because they were so worried about COVID. And anyone who died, it was in a car crash or anything in the very beginning, anyone who died was put down as COVID.
If they'd had not everybody who died was put down as COVID. I do need to make that clear. But if they did in the early days, there is an element of truth that if they had a diagnosis of coronavirus, then it was put down as a contributory factor on the death certificate. So yes, I will grant you that one. So I think at this stage, I can tell you're very passionate about this subject. So, like if come September you could not go to crowded places, and if the social control, as you put it, goes down that road and you're not able to go shopping or anything like that, I've got to ask you the COVID question: to jab or not to jab?
I still won't be, because I'll be making a stand that not everyone needs to take this. It should be a choice. Our ancestors fought for our freedom and our country to be safe, and now it just feels like all of that has gone to waste because we're not allowed to have our own say. It's now you must do this in order to be able to do that, and it shouldn't be that way. Like we are all entitled to our own opinions and freedoms, and we should be able to put what we want into our own body and not what someone else tells us to. There shouldn't be rules or regulations on if you do take this, then you can go somewhere, and if you don't, you can't go. It shouldn't be like that.
Okay, my lady, thank you very much for your comments today. This has been the COVID question. I've been Martin Kelly, joined by the Lady Unreal. Obviously, strong opinions on this particular subject. Join us next time on the COVID question, where we'll be asking a different COVID question. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Bye bye now.